What's good, everyone? It's your boy Dak908, aka the Dig Dug himself. And ladies and gents, boys and girls, Douglas and Dig S, monster hunters, monster honeys. Today, we're going to take a quick and delightful look at the flagship monster of the 6th generation thus far. Because Wild is the base game, we don't know what the G rank is going to look like yet, or the master rank is what you want to call it, the expansion. They usually give another flagship monster for there, but for the most part, as it stands right now, it is the flagship monster of the 6th generation. I am none other than talking about Arkveld. Now, this particular monster is a pretty cool monster, a bit of a doozy, has lots and lots of prominence in the promotional material. So if you're going to see any Monster Hunter Wild stuff, you're probably going to see his visage among lots of artwork, the splash screen for the video game. Once you actually buy it and go to boot it up, you'll see him right there. Tons of prominence in the actual story campaign and whatnot, so if you play a lot of the story, pay attention to it, he's a big prominent figure within that. So for all intents and purposes, they're really trying to show you, the player, that this is a very important monster, and truth be told, that's fine. He has a lot of really good things going about him. He's visually impressive, he's mechanically impressive. It's one of the few monsters, in my opinion, who really like knuckle down to the bread and butter of the game itself, all the mechanics, all the new things they added. He himself takes part in that, and you yourself take part in that to fight him. So with that said, Scorpion is one of the monsters that, in my full-on opinion, is the most unique of flagships, because he himself is a mechanic-based monster, much like I said previously. The other monster I could think that's kind of like that would be something like Arkveld, because Arkveld came in with the underwater combat. He himself was a flagship monster of the series, or rather that particular point of the generation. And how did you fight him? You fought him underwater. Like, you had to engage with the new mechanic to engage with him. That's really cool. Most others, you just fight them. Think of, heck, I forgot his name, Vanilla Ice. There you go, from Iceborne. You just fight him, you know. I guess he's in a new area, but you just swing on him, not a big deal. Heck, even Nergigante from the same generation, you just fight him, you know. I guess I wouldn't say the tracking was used for him, you just kind of beat him up. So I like how they made him more in line with the game itself. But nonetheless, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's stop yapping. Let's get to talking about what's really important. So first and foremost, talk about the weaknesses, okay? So for Kurapika, if you actually want to do the most damage to him, it's weird to say that his elemental hit zones aren't that great. I would recommend using Dragon though, because he isn't an Elder Dragon, even though the rule of thumb is to use Dragon on Elder Dragons. He himself is susceptible to Dragon damage, more so than most. It's just the most consistent elemental hit zone that he actually has. Now granted, speaking of hit zones, now these are pretty interesting. He has a lot of big weaknesses as far as his hit zones are considered, which make up for the fact that the elemental damage doesn't necessarily work as well as him as other monsters themselves. So for example, more often than not, the head is the weak zone for a lot of monsters. But with Indiana Jones here, you can use his head, his wings, and his tail, and I think his chain blades, I gotta double check that, but he has more hit zones that do way more damage, no matter whether it's cutting, shooting, or blunt damage. And that's actually a huge boon. But speaking of certain hit zones, so his chain blades and his wings, if you damage these parts by overloading them, quote unquote overloading them with elemental damage, meaning just use your elemental weapons, be it your dragon, your fire, or your water, whatever, he converts that into his dragon juice, the big juicy attacks you see him do. But he can only do this when he's charged up. So the more you hit him with these elemental attacks, he himself will get into a particular charged state. Now he can overload in this charged state and he'll stagger and fall over, which is a very common way for a lot of people, myself included, to combat him, especially when you're fighting him in higher states in the game. So for example, Arc Tempered or 9-star, version of this monster, you want to utilize every single thing you can to do the most damage to him. Again, like I said, super mechanic focus. Utilize the mechanics that the game has given you to take advantage of the monster itself. So that's a super cool thing about this guy. So the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to its particular attacking strategies, if you will, is that the hitbox on the chains, if you will, the whips, the chains and the whips, they are pretty big and they linger. By that I mean, once the attack itself is active, that hitbox stays active the entire time. A lot of times you'll think to yourself, okay, I'm free to actually act during this particular point, I can move through here, I can dodge at a particular point, and that hitbox is still open. So you'll think you got away, but realistically you didn't. It's actually really tricky to actually get all the way down, but just know that if you're going to dodge it, you have to dodge through it. Think kind of like Dark Souls. where if the attack is coming directly at you, dodge into it, so that way you can actually use your iframes to go through it. And speaking of iframes, you're gonna need usually more than the standard guard and variety that they give you off the rip. I've been able to do it, but I want to say I probably got a little bit lucky. Just know that it can be a little tricky, so I wouldn't recommend relying on it innately to do so. For the most part, you just kind of want to get out of the way. And as luck would have it, he has a couple attacks that actually do sweeping motions, and the sweeping motions with the change have interestingly short range compared to the vertical strokes, if you want to call it that. So if you're very careful and you can actually pay close attention to what he can actually do, Slick Rick himself can't actually do a whole lot of damage to you when it comes to the sweeping attacks, because the chains themselves don't really reach that far off. Granted, you gotta watch out for the vertical ones. Those are the ones you really and earnestly have to watch out for. So as a bit of a recap, and Takemaki, aka Panther, is easily one of the most interesting monsters to actually come out in this particular generation. As it stands right now, because it's the flagship, of course it's going to be getting a lot of extra love. You can see in the design, it's a huge part of the story, and it's everywhere. Okay, it's a flagship, it's just what they do. It's catered to, and it just works this way because it's how the game itself is designed, and the monster itself is designed in a way in which all the mechanics that's actually added to this game play very well with him, either to him or against him. But with that said, you have to truly understand that Kurama is easily one of the monsters that, if you really understand how the game itself works, you will be able to defeat him quite easily. Not every monster actually works the exact same way, with the wounds and how you have to dodge things and whatnot, and like the new elemental thing that he actually has going from whatever. A lot of interesting things. The elemental discharge that he does, that has to be charged with the elemental energy you give him, so on, etc. The fact that he's actually a construct, but no, he isn't. It's this huge thing, okay? Huge thing, but it's actually super duper cool. Not many other monsters work the same way in which Jonathan Morris actually does. So that's something you have to give it a lot of respect to. Speaking of respect, you have to truly and earnestly respect the weapons that Robert Reyes actually can give you, because those weapons are actually really good. As far as the dragon element goes, it's actually some of the best you can kind of get in the entire series, or at least in the game that's actually provided to us now, because it's just the high rank version of the game, so not very many things can actually oust it when it comes to its raw power, which is something you have to truly and honestly respect and understand and come to terms with. And it's not that bad, but all in all, Kratos is actually one of the kind of monsters that I can see a lot of people finding it to be one of their favorites and one of the best monsters that probably could come out of the 6th generation, because it's actually just done so well, crafted so expertly, even though the fight itself is a bit tricky. I mean, very much like fighting Axel. There are just a lot of things to it that's very nuanced, okay? It's a lot of small, intricate things about this monster that make it so that it's not easily just jumped in and taken care of, but you have to be paying attention to how the game actually works and what it's actually doing. Definitely one of the monsters you can fight time and time again, and if you can do it, it's gonna be one of the ones that you can come out from the battle thinking, okay, I think I got the whole thing down, the way the entire game works. It's the one that is, for the most part, the litmus test for how the 6th generation wants the monster hunting to actually be like. So, with that being said, Arkveld's pretty cool. Take care.